with you some 10 safe handling tips to make lifting and handling safer and prevent injuries. Tip number 1, try to avoid any unnecessary resident handling. Tip number 2, encourage the resident to do as much as possible for themselves. Tip number 3, keep the loads close to the body, not far out here. Tip number 4, try to make the body stay as neutral as possible. That means avoiding any forward bending, side bending or rotation, or even a combination of those 3 movements. Tip number 5, let your legs take the load. They are some of the strongest muscles in the body, so use them. Try to make it a whole body movement, not just your arms, not just your back, but the whole body moving as a unit. Try to point your leading foot in the direction that you're trying to go. For example, if you're moving the patient up the bed, point your foot in that direction and move the patient that way. Tip number 8, if the resident is heavy or difficult, use a lift. You can use walkers or ask for help. Tip number 9, again, if the transfer is very difficult, the resident is heavy, uncooperative or drowsy, inform the nurse and we may be able to change the care plan. Tip number 10, handling a resident alone increases the risk of injury, especially if you're unfamiliar with the resident. Only handle them alone if the care plan, the resident status, and your experience indicates it is safe to do so. Here are some extra tips. Please do not forget. Firstly, explain each step and tell the resident and other staff what you're doing before starting. Decide on the count and cues. For example, I would like you to stand up on the count of 3. So we're going to count. 1, 2, 3, stand up. Try to use the height of the bed, the head and foot adjustments to your advantage. For example, if you want the resident to sit up from lying position, elevate the headrest to avoid any unnecessary handling or lifting. Walkers are really handy for transfers. Just remember to lock the brakes before the resident stands up and before they sit down. When you are doing a pivot transfer, try to lead on the resident's stronger side, especially if they've had a stroke. So if this is my strongest side, I'm going to do a pivot transfer to that side. If the resident is falling, try to stabilize them if you can. But if you feel like their full body weight is going to land on top of you, don't hold them up. You're going to put more stress on your body. Simply just lower them to the floor with your arms and a bent leg and protect their head. Whenever doing any kind of lifting and handling, as I mentioned before, use your legs and a wide foot placement. This is more stable. And lastly, try to get any past or current injuries treated to optimize your health. A lot of times you're using a lot of your upper body to push and pull, and these muscles tend to get tight. So you can do a lot of the massage to pec major, to your neck, upper traps, and even the shoulder blade muscles. You can do a lot of the maintenance massage yourself, but if you feel that you need some professional help, please go and see a physiotherapist or a massage therapist on a regular basis to maintain a muscle relaxation. I'm going to demonstrate to you the correct way to squat and lunge. The reason being is that we use these movements for lifting. The correct squat requires the spine to be neutral and using the muscles of your hips and thighs. And it looks like this. You want to try and keep your hip, knee, and ankle in a straight line, not like this. Seen from the side, the back is nice and neutral, and the hips go back, and the knees don't bend more than 90 degrees. With a lunge, the mechanics are similar. A correct lunge looks like this. We use lunging a lot when we need to reach down low, pick something up from the floor. It's important to keep the hip, knee, and ankle going in one straight line, like this. So the knee over the toes. You want to avoid this position. So when lifting the patient up the bed, it's really important to keep the load close to the body and not far away. This will protect your back and prevent unnecessary pressure. Use your legs, so have a wide, stable stance. Point your foot in the direction that you're moving to and do a kind of a slide or a lunge like this, using a lot of the legs and making it a whole body movement. So we're going to do a lift up the bed, but first we have to raise the bed to the right height. And this will help to protect our backs. Okay, so what we're going to do is keep the sheet very close. Stand really close to the patient and get their help by bending their knees and saying, patient, can you give us a hand? We're going to move you up the bed on the count of 3. We're going to move in a coordinated way, point our foot in the direction that we're going, and 1, 2, 3, and lift. Wow, that was good. Very good. Right now we're going to help this patient to get up from the lying position to sitting. First thing we need to do is roll to the left. So if you could bend your knee and help me to roll towards me. Then we're going to slide the legs off the side of the bed. So if you help me, just drop your legs over the side. And then what we're going to do is push up onto this elbow. So you can rest this elbow here and come on up and sitting.
One.
Okay, so we're going to roll her towards me.
Anyway.
1, 2, 3, and roll.
Perfect. One down.
And then you're going to grab the upper body and I'll lift the legs down. 1, 2, 3, and up. So right now we're going to do a pivot transfer. First we need to make sure that the brakes are on and that we use a safety belt. So what we're going to do is we're going to stand up and pivot over to the wheelchair. You're going to give me a hand. Okay, so sit forward towards the edge of the bed. On the count of 3, we're going to stand up. 1, 2, 3, and up. Put your hand over to the armrest and pivot your feet over towards the wheelchair. And slowly sit down. Right now we're going to do a pivot transfer from the bed to the chair. Sometimes it's really handy to use a walker because the person can put weight through the walker and it gives them some stability. So if you can put your hands on the walker, what we're going to do is stand up and we're going to pivot your feet and have a seat on the wheelchair. Okay? You can also use a push-up from the bed. That's right. Okay, ready? We're going to stand up. 1, 2, 3, and up. And I made sure that the brakes were on. So we're going to take little steps over to the wheelchair. And if you feel the wheelchair in the back of your knees, you can take your hand off, put it on the armrest, and slowly sit down. Right now I'm going to demonstrate assisted ambulation or assisted walking in the safest possible way. So firstly, we want to make sure that the wheelchair, the brakes are locked. And then with the walker brakes are locked as well. Then we're going to ask the patient to shift towards the front of the wheelchair. What we're going to do is we're going to stand up and we're going to go for a walk. And you can see I have the safety belt around her. Okay, so you can put one hand on here and one hand on there if you like. On the count of 3, you're going to lean forward, bring your nose over your toes, and stand up. Okay, and one hand on the walker. We're going to release the brakes. So you can see I have one hand on the walker, the other hand on the safety belt, and we're going to walk. I'm going to demonstrate to you assisted walking or ambulation with 2-person assist. Sometimes this is necessary if the patient can only walk short distances and then they need to sit down, so they need the wheelchair to follow after them. Or if the patient is not reliable or if they're at high risk of falling. Okay, so patient, if you could sit forward on your chair. You've got the brakes on, and the brakes on, the wheelchair. On the count of 3, you're going to stand up by pushing on the armrests. 1, 2, 3, and up. Okay, hands on the walker. And we're going to release the brakes. So the therapist on the side has one hand on the walker, one hand on the safety belt, another therapist behind with the wheelchair to follow. And if the patient really needs to sit down or if they're about to fall, the wheelchair is close behind and they can sit down right away. Right now we're going to demonstrate what to do if a patient loses their balance. So in the first case, there'll be a minor loss of balance. And the therapist can just stop the patient from falling by holding on to the safety belt and stabilizing the patient. But in the case where the patient is putting all their weight onto the therapist and about to fall onto the floor, what the therapist can do is to slowly lower the patient to the floor and make sure they're safe. They can do this using their knee and half kneeling. And this will prevent all the weight of the patient being on the therapist's body.